Hello class and welcome back. In this series of projects in Photoshop, we're going to be covering one of the most essential functions, which is retouching damaged images or finishing photos for print and other applications. Now, in this stage, you're going to find that instead of turning in one final project, you're actually going to turn in several different files all zipped into one folder. I will show you how to do that in video number 5 and then the final stage of this project. If you're looking for more help on that or having trouble uploading your project, please contact me at pferris@mc.edu or using Moodle through QuickMail. In this first project, in stage 1, starting on page 319 in your text, we're mainly going to be working with how to touch up and repair damaged images. So you can see here I've already got the rosemans.jpg image loaded into my program. And right off the bat, you can see we have some scratches, we have a little bit of water damage, we have some folds down here that look like they've occurred, and some more scratches up here. Also, overall, if you zoom in, you can see that the photograph is pretty grainy, and the client would like us to remove some of that as well. So to get started, we're going to take care of the grain with the blur and sharpen techniques to try to soften that a little bit. So first we're going to go to we're going to go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Now you'll notice under the blur category you have several: blur, average, blur more, box blur, Gaussian blur, lens blur, motion blur, so on and so forth. And each of these have their own unique advantages and disadvantages. The Gaussian blur is probably the one used by photographers most often, helps soften details and to bring some, to kind of push back any kind of sharpness that they may have overexposed in their photograph. So after you select Gaussian Blur, you see that we have this preview box, and you can see right off the bat how this grain is getting kind of absolved into the background, and it can work, and it's working to help kind of push those details back. For us, what we want to do is we want to make sure this radius is set to 1.5 pixels, but just to show you what would happen if you boosted it up too far, you turn the image so it's so blurry it's unrecognizable, or if you leave it very low, you don't really do much of a blur at all. So a good happy medium is 1.5 pixels. And you can see here how the grain has been worked out of the photograph. You notice when you click over, you'll actually get the sharpened version, and when you let go on the photograph, you'll see the blurred. So let's go to the part right here where the scratches are. So really, where you can see the other damage on the photo is where you can notice this effect the most. So after you've selected, make sure, again, this is 1.5 pixels, and the preview box is checked so you can see all this. Make sure you hit OK. And there you go. So we have applied this filter. Now you notice, unlike what you did in the Africa project, this doesn't pop up as an effect over here in your background layer. That's okay. Just remember that all these effects that we're applying are destructive by nature. So to get back to the original, you either need to file and save as a new file, separate from your original, or you need to go back in history and then resave as a PSD file. But for now, we're not worried about that since we're wanting to repair this anyway, so we'll keep working. Now, you've pulled these details out, but we still want to make sure we refine some nice definition around the facial features, around the eyes, and around the hair where we've lost a lot of that. So to pull some of this back in, we're going to use a sharpen filter. So first we use blur, and now we're going to use sharpen. To do this, we're going to go to the sharpen panel right here under filter, and go to unsharp mask. Now, unsharp mask sharpens an image by increasing the contrast along the edges of an image. That means any part where it can tell that it's going from extreme lights to extreme darks, and it'll sharpen just those points so the whole image doesn't become over-sharpened and look grainy like it did before. Now, when we have the unsharp mask up, if we pull up here, you can start to get a preview just like we did with the blur panel. And we're going to change the amount to 150. So we want to blur this by 150%. We want to make sure the radius is 3 pixels, so double what the blurs were. And then we want to make sure the threshold is changed to 15. Now, what your threshold does is it determines, your threshold is your difference between light and dark. So, for example, I'm going to pull down here, and notice that when I have my preview turned off, you can tell that the edges right here are blurred out, but when I flip back on, you can see that these blacks have come back a little bit harsher, and that's exactly what we're looking for. It won't be perfect, but it should help a great deal, and especially if you go over to this other young lady's face, you can see where it really makes those eyes pop over here. There we go. So, see, with the preview off, see how soft her eyes are, and now with the preview on, we can see how those blacks come back in, and you can also tell on your overall photograph. So hit OK. Alright, and as far as taking grain and pushing and pulling different effects in the photo, we're done with that stage. Now, before you move on, make sure to save this as a working file in your WAP folder as roseman'sworking.psd. This makes sure that you don't save over the original. Alright, once you're back, now we're going to go over a few different of the tools to heal scratches and try to take care of some of these blurred items here in the background in this fold. Probably the one that I rely on the most would be the repair brush tool, which you can find. There are two of those: the spot healing brush tool and the healing brush tool and the patch tool. So what you can do is you can come under your little band-aid icon right here in your tools palette, and you see that I have these three. Again, spot healing brush, patch, and you notice we also have content aware move tool and red eye tool. The last two we won't worry about so much, but content aware tool is one of the newer ones in Photoshop, and it's really great if you're trying to move something in the image but need to replicate the background behind it. So say if you were moving a plane in the sky, or you were trying to take something out and need to fill it in, that would be really good for that. First, we're going to focus on the spot healing tool, and you can see once I come over, I have pretty much what looks like I had in my brush palette in previous projects. You have this little circle here. So what we're going to do to get us started is we're going to take the spot brush tool. We're going to go to the options panel, and we want to make sure that we set this to proximity match instead of content aware, and that we're going to choose a 20 pixel hard brush. So in your brushes palette, make sure to change this 45 to 20, change hardness to 100%, and leave spacing as it is. Now, the proximity match method uses the pixels around the edge of the selection to find an image area to use as a patch for the selected area. Whereas the create texture uses the pixels in selection to basically create a texture for remapping the area, and the content aware mode attempts to match the detail in the surrounding areas. In a lot of cases, you'll find that this content aware mode is really useful, but considering we're using this mainly to fix black areas of blacks and grays, the proximity match will do very nicely. So to get a better idea of how this is going to work, I'm going to zoom in on my image, and I'm going to come down here to where this edge is right here. Now, so you can see that we have this little white spot down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click it, and you can see it's gone. So I'm going to undo that so you can see it, and there it is, and then click it, and it's gone. So this tool is really great whenever you're working with these small blemishes, because it's going to take in whatever's around it and use that as the patch material. So you see I'm going to come up here, click a couple of times here, I'm going to come in here to the chin, attempt to remove that blemish. I'm going to come down here. Any areas on the dark part of the clothing would really be the best to use for this. Now let's see. We're going to come back here, and you'll notice that I have this little spot on the cheek. Now if I come in here and just try to select this, you can tell that I've got a much lighter patch here that doesn't really match. Well, to help take care of that, you can hold down your Alt or Option key, and you see this little crosshairs pop up. When that happens, that means you can also define where the selection is going to be coming from. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, select right beside it, and you can see that I get this tool that tells me that the spot healing brush automatically samples it. And that's exactly why I wanted you to see this. Because this message pops up, it tells you to go use the healing brush tool. Remember, spot healing brush, the one we're using now, pulls everything automatically. Whereas the healing brush tool will let us define where we want to pull that from. So to get to the healing brush tool, just come over here under the spot healing brush tool and let go. And you'll notice this one just looks like a band-aid without the little square behind it. So to define your selection, hold the Alt key, click with the crosshairs, and click once, and you can see that that patch has been taken care of. Alright, at this point, make sure that you save, and now we're going to use the clone stamp tools to help take out the rest of the major damage. Alright, so the clone stamp tools live right under the brush tool, and you can see we have clone stamp right here. You can also get to this by clicking S on your keyboard. Now for this, you'll notice there's several different areas that on here that you'll need to patch, predominantly with the scratches. Now I'm going to show you how to fix this one, and I want you to try to attempt to fix the other two, and this water spot over here on your own. Now let's see, I'm going to zoom to this corner. And the way that this clone stamp tool works is it lets me define an area. So I'm going to define right up here, and then I'm just going to click and drag. And you can see what it's doing is it's actually copying that area above into this dark area and attempting to blend it in with the rest of the photo. Now to get this done more effectively, I'm going to make my brush much larger, probably right around 100 pixels. And I'm going to select my area, and then I'm going to come here and just drag. Now you see when I actually drag this way, I actually dragged over part of the fold, and so we see that this spot matches this spot that's replicated there. So again, make sure that you click in a spot that doesn't have any folds or creases in it, and now just click, and wherever you see the crosshair pop up, that's the spot that you're covering and that you're defining. So we're going to go through here, take care of this edge, and that looks pretty good. Let's just go here and clean this up just a little bit more. Alright, and this is also a great candidate for the brush tool, for the clone stamp tool over here, because we can fill in this entire teared area by using our Alt key to define this option right above it. And we can just come in here and fill this in, and it grabs that texture, and voila, it fills and fixes both of these options. Now at this point we've covered all of the major tools, so what I would like you to do is come in here and try to attempt to fix the scratches above the man's shoulder up here on the left, and try to take this water spot out of the photo as well. Once you've done that, be sure to save it in your WIP folder as a JPEG calling Roseman's _fixed, and move on to the next stage.